So Origins 2024, we're at the CEG booth over with Nathan, and we're talking about everything they have at the booth. So what do we have going on here at Origins?
Cool. So we've got 2 new games coming out later this year that we can talk about right now. One is going to be a Gen Con release. This is Little Alchemists. About 10 years ago, there was the original Alchemist was released, and since then, the designer Matoush has had a family, so he had a younger daughter that was curious about the game he made, so he started trying to find a way to play it with her. And so that's how this game kind of came about. It started off as a very basic concept where you're just doing, in this game, it's similar to Alchemist, that it's a deduction game where you're getting ingredients, you're brewing potions, and you're trying to sort of sell them to adventurers. The way that works is you have a companion app that's free, and I just have to go back and use it. So you have an app that lets you kind of take 2 ingredients, you can scan them with the app, and then you lock it in, and it'll kind of produce, it'll tell you what potion that created. So then you'll mark that potion on your little grid here. Let's see. And then that gives you some information about how the different potions are made. So you discard those, draw new things. So you're doing, at the beginning of the game, it starts off very simple. You're just doing that. You're making potions, you're marking your board, and you're trying to sell them to adventurers to get money. The game is designed to be played for younger children and families. So it's it's 7 and up, but younger players can play. The first couple of levels are very basic. So you start off just doing that, just to introduce the concept of scanning, getting things, and you're selling stuff. As you get better at that, you'll earn key stickers that then go on these boxes. So the boxes will then unlock, and you'll add new layers of content and mechanics. So you're still playing the core same loop the entire game, but it just gets a little bit more complicated each level, so they'll add a new layer to it. So this is very basic, it starts off simple, but in the next level, it'll introduce the deduction element. So now, in addition to just scanning apps and so you're doing the same thing, you can also, once you learn enough about what the potions you're making, you can then choose to make a deduction. So maybe you say, okay, I noticed that these kind of potions have been making this color, I'm going to deduce, and write a theory that this is what that is. And it'll then test it. If you're correct, you'll get a bonus. You'll get the bonus, you'll add that to your pile, you get extra points. That's one new layer that's introduced, and you're still playing the game. Other levels, for example, will maybe add an ingredient, and that gets slotted onto the, as I dump things out, gets slotted onto the board. So this goes from like a smaller triangle to a bigger triangle to an even bigger triangle in future levels. So it gives you a little more to play with complex-wise. And the way it's designed is that it starts off small, but it gets a little bit more complicated, so it's meant to grow with the age and skill level of the player. So if you've got a younger child that wants to play, they might just enjoy just the scanning and the making, selling the potions aspect. But once they kind of grow a little bit more, or they want more from the game, you'll unlock the next chapter, and you can also add more to it. So it gets, by the later levels of the game, it gets pretty complicated. It's much more like an adult level of Light Euro. But you're still kind of doing the same loop. So some will introduce maybe animal pet friends. So you might make a potion and then choose an animal to be part of your friends. And then when you make that potion, you get extra coins for that. So you get a little bonus. Some levels will unlock artifacts and things that have more Euro game style scoring that can be kind of woven into it. And also other things will expand the deduction board so it gets even bigger. So this just kind of, the game grows essentially over each chapter.
Okay.
That's the gist. It's meant to be sort of accessible. You can play it with mixed age players. So even if you have a younger player that's playing with an older player, it's designed, you can kind of split the difference and figure out which chapters, which is the sweet spot. So if they're too overwhelmed, you can kind of layer it back if you've already unlocked that content. So that's the gist. It's meant to kind of grow with the scope and skill and age abilities of the players who are playing it. And it's meant to be for younger kids and families, but it does get pretty complicated towards later. And at the end of by the final chapter, the complexity of the deduction is pretty close to the original Alchemist. We've just streamlined some of the other elements of the original Alchemist gameplay, so it's not quite as big, heavy a Euro of a game. It's more lighter. That's the vibe of Little Alchemist. It'll be out at Gen Con release. I believe it's going to be $49.95 MSRP, and for ages 7 up, 2 to 4 players. It's kind of the vibe of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I like how you can scale it, because you're you're not quite ready for the next level. You can kind of not do that one just yet, even if you've already unlocked it.
It's really designed for replay too. So you'll notice on the board, there's the boxes. Some of them take multiple times to get the keys you want. So as the game gets more harder, it encourages you to play it multiple times. And the sessions are pretty short, so it's a quick loop. And as you're adding more stuff, you're basically still playing the same loop, but with just a little bit more added to it. So you're gaining familiarity with the core mechanics as you add more to it. Then you get used to those, you add more to those, and it just kind of keeps going. So it's a pretty cool system that works. Plus, if you have kids that really just like opening boxes and getting surprises, there's that piece of it too.
Then you can eventually graduate to full alchemist.
That's kind of the idea that like it's definitely not the same game 1-to-1 when you get at the end of this game, but it does really set you up for a lot of the same like core mechanics that are going to be in Alchemist. And if you want to go to a heavier, more Euro experience that has all these familiar pieces plus a few other layers to it, that is a good upgrade from when you get used to like the final chapters of it. But yeah, that's kind of that's Little Alchemists in a nutshell.
Okay, awesome. And what else do we have going on
I'm
here?
going to come over this side. I can talk about SETI.
Shuffle around here.
This has been kind of like the popular one of the show. So I'll give you kind of a quick overview. In SETI, SETI is basically a heavy-duty Euro space exploration game where you're searching for signs of intelligent life beyond our galaxy or solar system. So in the game, it's very much modeled. It's like not a sci-fi game. It's really about just a science game.
Okay.
Where yes, you're searching for alien life, and you will discover alien life. Maybe in the form of like a giant asteroid that might have some protozoa on it. That things. It's not like I discovered aliens and they're going to pew pews and this stuff. It's very much like science focused. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go there. But that's the goal of the game. Is you're trying to research different areas of the game to access these alien life. And there's 5 of them in the game. They're modular, so you get 2 randomly, and these aren't shown. You won't know what they are until you unlock them. So It has some kind of like surprise replay. Each alien aspect introduces its own unique mechanics, so it'll change the gameplay a bit. But then breaking it down, here's kind of the core of what you're doing. So there's 3 areas of the game that each kind of correspond to the different types of data you're going to be looking for to discover the aliens. The first thing is you're going to be spending resources to potentially launch probes from Earth and then send those probes by spending resources to go to other planets. When you get to those other planets, you can do things on them, like potentially send them into orbit. You could maybe send it to orbit to get some bonuses. You get some points and some extra goodies when you do that. And you would lock that in there, so you have no more probe there. You have to launch another probe. You could also potentially land on the planet itself, which gives you even better goodies, and also gives you some of the yellow data that corresponds to one of the 3 types of alien information you're gathering. The other thing you do is, as you upgrade your technology, potentially you can land on the moons, which are even better. So this whole area corresponds to flying around the galaxy and doing stuff. So that's one kind of core piece of the puzzle. The second main area you're focusing on is exploring sending your telescopes, pointing them at different areas of sectors of the galaxy and studying that. So when you use that action, you're going to spend resources, and then you'll look at the corresponding section that pertains to Earth, and maybe some others depending on any upgrades you've unlocked. But when you do that, it has kind of an area control aspect to it. So you're going to gain data from the sector you're looking at. That will get slotted over here into your computer for later, and that can be used as free bonus actions later on. And then you're going to take one of your markers and mark that you've been studying that area, so people know how much research you put into that sector. Other people can also research the same sector, but whoever has the most when it fills up gets a bigger benefit. But regardless, when this fills up, it'll then trigger, whoever did that can get to place a token on this area of their choice to research that particular type of alien information. Okay. So those are 2 of the areas. The third one is more tied into your computers at home. So over here on your main player board, you can upgrade different technologies. These both tie into the 2 things I talked about already. This is also your computer. So you get data from researching things using the satellites and things. And then this will, you can slot it in to like get goodies. But when you max out and you get all the way to the end, that'll then can let you unlock the 3rd type of information. Also lets you reset your whole computer and rebuild your engine by adding more, getting more data to plug into it. So there's some engine building, there's some area control, there's action selection. That's the general vibe of what you're kind of doing. Also, you can upgrade your technologies on Earth by getting reputation, and that lets you choose and get one of these different tokens to slot into your board at different areas. These give you bonuses for, like, you can have a second probe in orbit, you can land on asteroids, or you get bonuses for going through them. This one lets you potentially land for cheaper. This one lets you land on moons, so you have some unlocking abilities you can do there. This all pertains to your computer data. This all pertains to getting bonuses when you're doing the signal stuff. The other thing I didn't think about mention is that when you upgrade your technology, it influences the rotation of the solar system a little bit. So you'll move your token, and depending which layer you cross, will rotate that particular layer of the system. So everyone's going to be flying around doing stuff. You might find that, ooh, this just rotated, and maybe it sets me up to do what I want to do faster. Or you might find that maybe you remove something, and now you're stuck with an extra asteroid field in the way that can be more problematic. So the planetary system is always rotating based on what players are doing with their own boards. And that happens throughout the game. The other piece of the puzzle is that, so when you unlock alien life, you'll then flip it over and get a random alien life, and you'll learn about what that is going to be. So this particular to-be-determined alien life, which is not quite fleshed out because we're still a prototype, it's meant to represent you're very far away from that in the galaxy. So when you get that, you get some cards. You'll have to get to new card abilities you can use. These cards sort of let you place a token 15 spaces ahead of where you are on the victory point track, and then when you reach there, you trigger like a delayed bonus effect. So that's kind of the unique way that these interact. This one is a asteroid that exists in the actual realm that has passed through our galaxy. You add it to the board, and now it becomes a place you can land on and do like bonus goodies on. So those cards kind of tie into that. There's also like a pick up and deliver type alien. They're all a little bit different. They're all kind of like not too far-fetched. They're meant to be kind of like very plausible as things I could potentially discover in the real like known world. The other quick thing that I didn't mention is that this is also a resource management element. You start off with a beginning, some energy, some money, and some card draw, but you eventually also want to, as you get cards, you can choose to slot them in based on certain ways. You have the opportunity to expand that, so you're getting more resources, you can do more each turn. Cards are also kind of the last piece of the puzzle. They're very powerful in that they all represent different missions, and they all represent actual missions that are either from the past, from the present, or actually are being planned for the future. So they're all real world things that happen. So you can, like, as you flip through the cards, you're like, oh, these are all things that have either happened or are going to happen. So it's all based on kind of like real science things that are happening. Cards can be played in different ways though. So as you have cards, you can either discard them to kind of get a quick benefit of different types. You can spend money or alternately do the mission and get a better bonus. Some missions also have like a bonus objective that you can then put this in front of you. You don't have to try to strive towards completing that later on in the game, so you have like a delayed bonus. And then other times, depending on how you upgrade your different your sort of satellite dishes, when you're doing your research on the different sectors, they let you maybe get bonus things depending on the cards that are in the offer. So you can you can play off some of these other colors that might be not available from your main action. So it's about choosing actions each round. So you choose a main action, and you also potentially can choose bonus actions to kind of build combos and get more done. And you go across 5 rounds, everyone's doing sort of the opportunity to take an action, then it moves around the board, and then when everyone runs out of what they're doing, they can't do any more actions, you move on to the next round and get more resources. So that's the flow. It happens across 5 rounds. There's end game bonuses you can acquire. There's different things. It's a lot of point salad. It's kind of big, heavy Space Hero with lots of variability and things that change from game to game. So SETI will be out at Essen Spiel. It's 1 to 4 players. It'll be 13 and up, and it's about 40 minutes per player, so it's pretty heavyweight length game. Yeah, that's what we have going on.
Yeah, awesome. Everything looks awesome. This one, I like the not sci-fi, science-based game. That's really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. So the designer also is an amateur astronomer, and he's really into Carl Sagan, like super into like science nerd stuff. So a lot of what we've been trying to do with the game design-wise is to keep it very rooted in scientific stuff. Things that you would expect to do if you were trying to be like an astronomer researching the galaxy and trying to figure out what's out there beyond. So big tie-in to Carl Sagan vibes if you're familiar with Carl Sagan. It's a fun for people who like science spacey games that aren't necessarily always wanting just a sci-fi game. There's no pew-pew space lasers in this game. It's really just down to kind of like things that are happening in the real world. And I'm a big science nerd, so I like that space as well. So.
Yeah, I've been getting into a lot of space stuff. I've been listening to a couple podcasts on the universe. I don't know if you heard about that one. That one's really good. But
I dig it. I'm all about like celestial things that are happening beyond like our comprehension because we're all a real tiny speck in this thing.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I appreciate the time chatting.